Ladies, I want to have a real conversation today. And this isn't about macros. It's not about workouts. It's not about getting steps or hitting a protein goal. I want to talk about you because I talk to so many women every single week. They are high performing, they're smart, they're capable, they are successful in their careers. And underneath it all, there is a quiet truth that they feel like they don't even know who they are anymore. And they don't say it out loud often enough or know how to even start addressing it. But you can feel it and you can see it in the way that they show up, in the way that they feel about life and how empty their day-to-day feels. So I want to dig into how women lose themselves in marriage and motherhood without even realizing it and how to get back to you. So first off, we have to acknowledge that there's a gap. So who you were before all of it, before you became a wife, before you became a mom, you were an independent, standalone woman. You had routines, you had hobbies, you had friendships, you had your own way of doing life. You had things that filled your cup and things that made you feel alive, and you went to dinner with your girlfriends and you didn't feel guilty about it. You would stay out late, you would have a couple cocktails, you'd go on trips, you'd spend money on things that made you happy, and you could go to the gym without trying to coordinate 17 schedules. You had space for yourself more than anything. And here's something that we don't talk about enough. The version of you before you got married, that is the version of you that your husband fell in love with. He fell in love with your independence, your confidence, your energy, and the life in you. But we see this too often is marriage happens and then there's a shift. And I just want to talk about this and I want to normalize this for a second because the shift is common, but it doesn't have to be the way everything goes. Just because it's common doesn't mean it's serving you, doesn't mean it's right for you, because slowly, even without even realizing it, we start adjusting our lives. We start aligning our schedules to our husbands. We start aligning our priorities to the household. We start thinking about what needs to get done for other people before ourselves. And we, by default, start taking up less space. And it's definitely not intentional, but it's gradual. And part of it is what society has deemed necessary for women and wives to be labeled as good and doing what they're supposed to. And it's something that we kind of need to push back on in some ways. But I want to give some real life examples of how this shows up. And they might feel very small, but they're not. And I'm going to give some real life examples of myself and how this happened in my marriage as well. So here's an example. You get invited to a girls' dinner, but you're married now, so your husband can't come. And you're thinking, well, it's a Friday night. We're supposed to spend time together. My husband and I, we're supposed to spend time together. We're supposed to have dinner together. I have to make dinner, so I can't go to this girls' dinner, so I probably shouldn't go. Or if I do go, I need to rush home and be home by 8 p.m. so that we can go to bed at the same time, or he doesn't have to wait up for me. Meanwhile, your husband will go out golfing for 5 hours on a Saturday without even thinking twice. And you feel guilty leaving the house for an hour to go have dinner with your girlfriends. So I see this often. And in the beginning of my marriage, I felt the same way too. Like I had to spend all of my time and energy with him and I couldn't go do things without him. But we shouldn't have to have guilt over spending time with our friends and doing stuff that makes us happy. We shouldn't have to rush home from every activity that we do. We shouldn't have to over-explain our reason for wanting to be gone for 90 minutes and justify a dinner with our best friend and just having that time and space away from each other. Your husband doesn't feel the need to have guilt or rush home or over-explain or over-analyze and over-justify. So why do we feel the need to have to do it? Or another one, maybe you go to an event with some friends or some family or your mom the entire time. You're thinking, I should probably head out soon. I don't want to be gone too long. I should probably get back, even if nobody asks you to, if no one is expecting you to. It's just that anxiety and that pull that we have as women, as wives, to be doing the things that serve our husband. Or you go on a trip, but instead of fully enjoying it, you're cutting it short. You're worrying about what happens at home. You feel like you need to go back early or not go at all. I experienced this a lot in my marriage with my husband after we had kids. I started taking annual girls' trips with my friends because my husband takes an annual guys' trip hunting. Well, once I had my son, I would cut it down as short as possible. I would fly in at the last minute, go on the trip, and then fly home. I would never give myself the time and space. I would still take the trip because that was a non-negotiable that I set in going into marriage and motherhood, but I would make it as short as possible. I would say, I need to get back. I can't be gone that long. I have to be back. And it was my own burden I was putting on myself. And as I've gone through motherhood, I have slowly allowed myself more time and space. So the first trip after having my son may have been 5 days. Then maybe the next year it was 6 days, then 7 days. And just hear me out. My husband takes a 2-week hunting trip every year with the guys, off the grid, very little contact. And that's okay with me. I have no problem with that. He's always done that. So why on earth would I restrict myself to 5 days away? Why did I put that burden on myself? Why did I feel like that was necessary? My husband never said it, but it's the expectation that I set for myself. So eventually I started to take back more time and space. Now my upcoming trip that I'm taking at the end of this month is 12 days. And I don't feel guilty about that. That is time and space I need away from my kids, away from my husband to feel refreshed and like myself. And you need that time and space too. Or for some women, they stop making plans with their friends altogether because it just feels like too much work. They feel guilty every time they leave. They don't enjoy themselves when they're there. They're constantly checking their phone, their watch, the clock, wondering what's going to go wrong while they're away. And over time, you just lose that connection with the people you love and you care about, and you become only connected to your spouse and your immediate family. And motherhood amplifies this. Once you add kids to the mix, everything intensifies because now you're the scheduler, the planner, the organizer, the emotional support system, the default parent, the cook, the cleaner, the grocery shopper. You're carrying the mental load of an entire household. And it's heavy and you're tired, but that is a sure sign that you need a freaking break. Because here's the truth that you might not want to hear. You are carrying it all, but that is your choice. And that is an expectation you probably placed on yourself. And in marriage, we are not supposed to carry everything, but society has deemed it necessary for women to do all the things, carry all the weight, wear all of the hats, and we're juggling 1,000 balls. We are running ourselves into the ground doing it. We have to have time and space for ourselves. We have to give ourselves the grace to connect with who we were before marriage, before motherhood, and in all of this. Because over time, if we don't, what happens is we start to lose our identity. We become everything for everybody else, and slowly we become nothing for ourselves. Our hobbies disappear, our friendships fade, our routines fall off, our goals get pushed to the back burner. And life becomes this vicious cycle of wake up, take care of the kids, go to work, come home, clean, cook, repeat. And every day we're doing that. And it starts to feel very empty. And I've talked to so many women lately as we've left the winter season, we're getting towards spring, where through the winter months, they were feeling empty and drained and lack of joy and lack of connection with themselves. And just like they were on this rat race and this hamster wheel day after day. And it honestly just makes you feel so empty and like a shell of the person you used to be. And part of that is the disconnect with the things that brought you joy, made you happy, and filled your cup. So these women are left wondering, why am I so drained? Why do I feel so disconnected? Why do I have no joy? Why don't I feel like myself anymore? But then you realize you're not taking any time and space for yourself. You're not getting away. You get zero alone time. You are carrying the weight of every task. You don't feel like you can ask for help. You have no energy devoted to your health, to your fitness, to any of that stuff. And women start to realize that this just isn't them. And the hard truth is we don't lose ourselves overnight. But we slowly stop choosing ourselves. We stop prioritizing the things that made us feel whole, the things that made us independent, the things that made us feel confident, the hobbies that filled us with joy. And somewhere along the way, we just said, this is how life is now. But it doesn't have to be that way. That is a personal choice. And this is where we have to challenge the norm. Because being a great mom and a great wife doesn't require you to disappear. In fact, the most fulfilled women, the women who feel confident and energized and connected, are the ones that still take care of themselves. They make time for their friendships and their personal relationships. They move their bodies, they pursue their goals, they protect their energy, and they spend time away from their kids and husband. We need that. It's good for us. We were never meant to spend 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with other people. We need a break too. We need space to breathe. We need space to not be needed. We need space to not be touched. We need space to just think on our own about us. But I know what it always comes back to is women feel guilty, and that's what keeps most of them stuck. They feel guilty leaving the house, taking time for themselves, going to dinner, going to the gym, spending money on themselves. Let me tell you this, when I used to go take dinner dates away with my mom friends, with my girlfriends, I would literally cook dinner for my husband and kids before I left. Like, how asinine is that? Like, I am trying to take a evening away to not have to cook dinner, to treat myself, to go out with my mom friends, and I'm still cooking dinner for the family as if my husband is incapable of doing it. Now, I did that for the first year or two after my son was born, and then I stopped and I realized my husband is capable of taking care of these kids. He can make dinner for himself, for the kids. I don't understand why I'm doing this. And once I started to share that load, we started to shift the dynamics and he started cooking dinner more. But I unreasonably took on that expectation that I have to cook dinner every night. That's what makes me a good wife and a good mom. But it doesn't. It just makes me burnt out, exhausted, and resentful. And we have to acknowledge that, because the reality is our husband and our kids never asked us to disappear. They're watching us. They're learning from us. And our husbands fell in love with a version of us that we often lose in motherhood and marriage. And that's not fair either, not to him, not to us, not to our kids. So we have to remember that taking care of ourselves is not selfish, it is foundational. When we take care of ourselves, we have more energy, more patience, we're more present, we're happier. We show our kids what it looks like to be confident, healthy, balanced, fulfilled, have joy around what we're building in the life that we've made. So what I want to challenge every woman here to do is, I don't want you to overhaul your life, but I want you to pause for a moment and reflect on what you've let go of in marriage, in motherhood, that used to bring you joy. Think of one thing you used to love, a hobby, a routine, a habit, a friendship, and try to reintroduce it. Maybe it's reading. Maybe you used to love reading and now instead you sit on the couch and watch TV with your husband every night because that's what he likes to do. Maybe you used to love to go walk in the park on Sunday mornings, but you stopped doing that because your husband wants to sit around and watch football. Maybe you used to have a girls' dinner with your best friend every month and now you've put it on the back burner because you feel guilty and it's too much time away from your kids. I want you to take that thing back. That thing that brings you joy, that thing that makes you feel whole, that thing that makes you feel like yourself. I want you to get back to it. Not overthinking it, not waiting for the perfect time. Just set the expectation and go do it. Because in order to be the best version of ourselves as a wife and as a mother and just as a woman, we don't need to become someone new. We need to reconnect with who we were prior to marriage. I truly believe that in our life, there's 3 versions of us. There's the version of us before marriage, the independent, happy, confident, standalone woman that we were. There's the version of us in marriage, the wife, and then there's the version of us in motherhood. And we have to honor and respect all 3 versions of ourselves and give those versions of us what they need to feel whole and joyful and fulfilled. And we need to stop putting ourselves on the back burner. So I want to leave you with this, ladies. If your entire life revolves around everyone else and there's nothing left that's yours, that is not fulfillment. That is survival. And you were made to do more than just survive this life. You were made to actively live in it in a way that brings you joy. When you think about, I have to show up, I need to spend all my time with my kids, my husband, my family, all of these things, you need to stop and remind yourself that you are a woman living your life for the first time too. And you deserve to live it fully, not in survival mode every day and not putting yourself on the back burner every day. So please just put yourself front of mind again and remind yourself that the woman your husband fell in love with is potentially a drastically different version of the woman that you are now. And if you want to be happy and thriving, we need to get back to honoring all versions of the woman that we are. You guys got this.